Hi, hello, how are ya? This setting might look familiar if you watched my last video, as I literally just ended it 12 seconds ago, not even. I am currently baking for the festival. This is cinnamon roll dough. Those are some sourdough loaves that are proofing. Also have these loaves here cooling. These are jalapeno cheddar, and this one is garlic and herb. But I have to leave my house at 3 a.m. for the festival, which is in 10 and a half hours. I have 10 and a half hours to get the rest of this baking done and get the plants in the vehicles and get going. While it is pouring rain, in fact, flooding outside. Multiple areas around me have been evacuated and are flooded. Luckily for me, where I live is not one of those. So I don't even know if a lot of people are going to be showing up to this festival, but I already paid money for the booth and I already paid money for my hotel room, so I'm gonna be there. It is really difficult to do all these baking things and also take you guys along with me. I've yet to take you guys along, and look at this. All of this is sourdough bread. This is technically my freezer, but it doesn't freeze. It's broken for some reason. It only stays slightly colder than fridge temp. And as these are homemade, all-natural sourdough breads, they do not have any preservatives, which means they can mold, and I don't want that to happen, so I keep them in here. Please ignore the state of my fridge, but I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, and another one behind it, so 5 loaves in the fridge. And these 2 bowls are double batches of baguettes, which I will have to shape soon. Actually, as soon as possible. I can anytime. So I showed you here them making cinnamon rolls. I will then use this to roll it out into a rectangle, spread butter, add brown sugar and cinnamon, and then roll them up and cut them. Here is an example of ones that are already rolled and cut. This was the first one I did, and you can tell because look how much better these ones look. It's kind of a game between too loose and too tight. So when you have them too tight, then they puff out the top, or like this middle section comes out. But if you have them too loose, then they don't look very good. So hopefully they all turn out well. You have to do this, and then they sit on the counter for 2 to 3 hours to rise, and then you bake them. So I don't know how it is for you guys in your area. But here, the weather is consistently inconsistent, so there's not much I could do about the fact that it is flooding. Hopefully, people still want to show up to the festival, because if not, then I have made a lot of bread and raised a lot of plants for, I guess not nothing, but to then struggle, because to get rid of these items in my really small town where I live is not going to be easy. So I hope that there's at least enough people there that I can make back some of the money. I think just the food for this festival was over, like the food products, the flour, filtered water to make the bread, butter, sugar, eggs, things like that. Actually, that's a lie. I did not have to buy any eggs because my mom has chickens, and she saved her eggs for me for a few weeks before the festival, so I didn't have to buy them because they're so expensive right now. But cream cheese, butter, sugar, flour, filtered water, all the fruit to go in the scones, heavy cream, milk, all of those kinds of things for the baking, equaled out to roughly $400-ish. So I'm hoping that at least enough people are there to make back, at the very least, what I spent on the food. And that wouldn't even be inclusive of what I spent on soil and containers for the plants, and then obviously the time that I take to take care of them. Let's zoom out a little bit. I'm so sorry about the state of my kitchen. Please ignore that. I promise I clean it up in between each different thing. So like, I haven't cleaned the counter off since making cinnamon rolls because I've just only been making cinnamon rolls, but I do clean the counter in between like flavored loaves of bread to avoid not really cross-contamination, I guess, but just crossing flavors. So I think this is my 5th time making these sourdough cinnamon rolls, and this will be the only time that I've ever actually had a stand mixer to knead them. Most sourdough recipes that I make are no knead. You just stretch and fold your dough while it rises and then let it rise more. But these cinnamon rolls are made half with regular flour, half with bread flour, and have more sourdough starter in them than a lot of the regular recipes I make. So this one, the recipe says, does turn out a lot better if you actually use a stand mixer. I don't own a stand mixer, so my best friend loaned hers to me, and she also actually took off of work so that she could come to the festival. She's never been, and she's gonna see me at the festival, so that'll be really cool. Like I said, we do have to leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning to be there by 5 a.m. and sit in line for an hour and a half until they let us in. All right. Here's what we're looking like now. A big, not quite perfect rectangle. I'll try to even it up a bit. I'll roll out that corner some more. I'm so sorry if the camera work in this video is bad. I'm much more focused on making good product than I am on getting good footage of making it. Because after all, people are going to be eating these, and I want them to be good. That's about as even as I think I'm gonna get it. Now we do butter. Actually, before I start rolling stuff onto here, I'm gonna get the pan ready. And for that, I just take a piece of parchment. The recipe for these actually does not require parchment paper in the pan, but I have found that the cinnamon rolls stick a little bit to the bottom of my pans, at least my pans, I don't know. So I go ahead and put parchment paper and then cover that and the edges in butter. Hi, how are ya? Yes, I'm still in the kitchen. Yes, I do still look like this. We're gonna ignore all of that. I have finally finished shaping and mixing, and basically I finished the dirty work of doing all the sourdough and stuff. Actually, not and stuff. I finished the dirty work of doing all of the sourdough. I have 2 baguettes proofing right here. These 3 cinnamon rolls still going. I'm sure they're bigger than the last time you looked at them. There's another one there. Over here, I have 4 more baguettes proofing. One of my bowls of baguette dough was overproofed, so instead of trying to make overproof dough into baguettes, I just made it into 2 loaves of jalapeno cheddar focaccia. And here is that last pan of cinnamon rolls. This one I rolled up a bit later than the other 2, or the other 3. And this crazy messy counter is just, right now, full of water, actually, because I have found that just getting the counter saturated and using my bench scraper is the best way to get all of the leftover sourdough or starter or flour, anything really, just off my counter. It for sure works better than any cleaner that I've tried to get sourdough and flour off of the counter. So this is what I'm doing in between baking loaves. There are 2 loaves in the oven, 1 garlic and herb and 1 jalapeno cheddar. I have to bake them for 25 minutes with the lid on and then 20 minutes with the lid off. So in between just opening and closing the oven and removing lids and transporting breads on parchment paper, I'm just trying to clean up the kitchen some because I don't want to leave this mess for my love bug. He's helped me a lot with this, and he's gonna help me a lot more. He's coming with me at 3 a.m. to help me transport all this stuff. He doesn't deserve to be left with a mess, so I'm trying to clean it up, and then I'm gonna clean up myself. I am covered in sourdough, but I guess that's how it should be. I'll check in with you guys when I'm taking these loaves out of the oven. Actually, I'll show you when I take the lid off, which is only in 2 minutes. Okay, in that 2 minutes that I still had on my timer, I got the counter clean. I thought that was a piece of sourdough, but it's just a little mark on my counter. So, my counter is clean. Well, it's not disinfected. It's not got anything stuck on it. Now I will use a spray disinfectant and go ahead and wipe it off again. But it's time to remove the lid on those loaves. Yes, I hear you, timer. Thank you. Back up, Talkie. It's gonna be hot. Quick peek. Here's the loaf right as I took the lid off. Keep the lid on at first so that it can steam and rise as much as possible so you don't end up with flat bread. Okay, now all I have to make is I have to bake the baguettes and the cinnamon rolls and the rest of the loaves in the fridge, but all that I have to mix together left is some batches of lemon blueberry scones, which are very, very easy to make. I don't know if you've ever made scones. They're so easy and so good. Highly recommend. I'm using the recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction. And then those loaves of focaccia over there, but a lot of those are going to go quickly because the focaccia can both go in at one time. The cinnamon rolls are going to go 2 at a time, and the loaves are also going to go 2 at a time. So then I just have to make toppings for the cinnamon rolls, the cream cheese icing, and I want to do some glazes and toppings on probably half of the scones. So I do still have a lot to do, and I would like to take a shower. I also have a bowl graveyard because sourdough. That's why. So I'm about to wash all of this and maybe eat something because it's 8 p.m. and I've only eaten 1 cookie today. All right. Things got hectic and I failed to record anything else. My car is packed with bread. My Lovebug's car or truck is packed with plants, and my mom's car is packed with a mixture of plants, bread, and decorations. So, look at their compost pile. I love that. I wish to have a compost pile that big one day. So cool. For the last 20 miles of that drive, I was really I looked like I was maybe doing something that I shouldn't be doing because I was just moving around. I was punching myself in the thigh and slapping myself in the face and widening my eyes and moving my face all weird, just trying to stay awake. I personally don't do well with lack of sleep, and I did not get any sleep last night at all. So that's a lack, if I would say so. Here's some stuff in my car. There's a couple of plants in here. Those are the only plants that wouldn't fit with everything else. Lots of sourdough. Hopefully, there's still going to be a lot of people, even though there's been so much inclement weather. Apparently, they have really good drainage here because on the way in, I could see all of the drainage creeks and stuff, and they're full of debris and trees and shrubs. But hopefully, people still want to show up. It is much less rainy than it has been for days and days. This is the brightest it's been in the morning for days, and it's currently, oh, my clock's not right, currently 6:56 a.m. This lady right here is the coordinator of the festival, so as we go up around in a line, she comes up to our window and she'll ask me my name and I'll tell her, and she'll tell me where to go. Oh, also, on the way here, we stopped around 20 miles away from the town that I live in to put gas in my mom's car, and my car wouldn't start, so that's awesome. I think my alternator is dying. Amazing. Love that. So I have strict instructions right now to not shut my car off while we're unloading the stuff. Also, a lot of things are flooded, so on the way, on one of the major highways, there was a section that was flooded, and we could have gone 25 miles out of the way, or we could have done what we did and taken some back roads around until just on the other side of the road closure. So I think it was only an extra 10, maybe 15 minutes. So almost time to set up. I am tired. Everyone's leaving. All these tulips are so pretty. I really like the taller varieties. I like these ones. These are Flaming Parissima. I think I said that right. Look at this. Isn't this just... love it. Hello everybody, I really hope you're having a good Easter, and I know it's only been 2 seconds for you since the last little bit of this video, but realistically, in actual life, it has been just over 10 days, not quite 2 weeks, since I recorded the last bit of this video that you just watched and went to the flower festival. I just got done editing the footage that I already recorded, and there is just some stuff that I wanted to tell you about what happened during the festival. Just a little side note first though, I am not very happy with the small amount of recording that I did while I was making bread and getting ready for the festival on the way there and while I was there. Last year I got a lot more footage than I did this year, especially when I went to the festival in October, because it's really difficult to time when I'm able to leave my booth. Because I feel bad leaving my mom there, even though she was perfectly willing to stay there and do everything at the booth for me. She just doesn't know all of the things about plants and the breads and whatnot, so I don't want her to just stand there feeling dumb, like she doesn't have the information when people ask questions. So I tried my best to stay at the booth as much as possible, which is a big part of why I didn't get a lot of footage. But that's okay, I will tell you all about it, and I'm debating on attending their spring planting festival in May. So if I go to that, I will absolutely get an actual good video for you guys. But anyways, here's some information about the festival. It was hosted in Mansfield, Missouri at the farm of Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. I did all of the preemptive things to be a vendor there, and you saw me in the line and on the way into the festival. So on day one, it was very cold and very rainy. I don't think it got above 45 degrees all day, which not only the people but also the plants were not very happy about. It was a very slow morning, but it did turn into a fairly busy afternoon with a steady stream of people. In fact, more people than I expected. All the vendors were talking to each other like, man, this might just turn into a swap meet if people don't show up. But they did. So many actually showed up that I sold every single loaf of flavored sourdough bread on the first day, which I think was 8 loaves of garlic and herb, like just bowl loaves, the domed traditional artisan-shaped loaves with garlic and herbs in them. And I think I had 10 of the jalapeno cheddar loaves with jalapenos and cheddar in them, obviously, and some of the plain breads and the sweets also sold on that day. Basically, on day one, I sold bread, tons and tons of bread, and only a handful of plants. At the end of the day, it was nearing 40 degrees, and we had to pack up. I looked at the weather, and it was gonna get just below freezing. So last year, when I vended at the festival, we actually left the plants in my booth. We used the tables that I had and made kind of a makeshift room and dropped the canopy so that they were all covered as much as possible, but it was warm enough that I didn't have to worry about them freezing to death. Whereas this year, like I said, it was gonna get just below freezing, and peppers, tomatoes, certain flowers, a lot of the plants that I was selling were not gonna take those temperatures. They would have died, especially not being properly hardened off yet. They had lived inside majority of their lives. So what we did was packed my car and my mom's car full of all of the plants and things that we could fit in there, and took them back to the hotel with us. And I don't mean we left them in the car overnight outside the hotel. I mean, we took them into the hotel with us. I'll put pictures up here because the room looked ridiculous. It was 2 beds and a bunch of plants on the floor everywhere. But it all fit in there, and I only felt a little bit bad about spilling some soil on their floor, because I'm sure hotel keepers have seen worse than that. So last year at the festival, my mom and I actually slept in my car because we did not book a room early enough, and the only hotel in Mansfield didn't have any vacancy. So this year I made sure to book it early, and we stayed at the Weaver Inn B&B in Mansfield. It was super cute. We stayed in the Americana room. It was contactless check-in. We just had to type in a PIN pad for our door, and I didn't even realize, but there was breakfast vouchers. We could have had free breakfast. We didn't. My mom and I aren't really breakfast people. So we slept very soundly, got up the next day. In fact, it took me a good minute to wake my mom up because she was just so tired. Neither of us slept the night before on the way to the festival. We just stayed up all night and all day doing the first day of vending. So by 8 a.m., we were packing the plants back into the cars and heading back to the festival, which didn't take us nearly as long as putting them into the hotel room. We assume it was because we were so tired that it felt like every single step was being forced from us. So on the first day, we only used our designated space that I paid for, but on the second day, there was still 2 empty spots right next to us. So I utilized one of those empty spots to set up my plants. I'll add pictures and videos here. Since I was able to set my plants up a lot more organized on the second day, it was also warmer on the second day, so since it was warmer and I could set my plants out, I just utilized that secondary space and set them out in a way where people could walk back in between them and kind of be in the plants, which they really, really seemed to like. Sorry about the wind, not really much I can do about that. I hope you can hear me. So on the second day, there was a very steady, busy flow of people the whole time, with a few bursts where it was almost overwhelming with the amount of people that were there, and we just continued steady sales. On the second day, I mostly sold plants, and by mostly I mean like one woman bought over 40 plants just from me. Spent almost $100 at my booth just on plants, so that was amazing. She was great, and if she's watching this, she knows who she is, because I undercharged her because I did not count properly how many plants she grabbed. And when she came back to get them, I was like, man, I'm so sorry that I undercharged you. That is totally my bad. You're gonna get these plants for the price that you got because that's how much I told you they costed. And she was like, oh no, please let me pay the difference. What was I supposed to pay and what did I pay? So I told her, and she actually paid me the difference. But it worked out because later in the day, she stopped back to get her plants, and we have these really big bread, like baskets, I guess, that we let her borrow to transport all of her plants from my booth to her car, so they didn't have to individually carry anything or borrow a wagon from Baker Creek. It was also, oh, something in my eye. I was also very happy to see that I had several return customers, which is amazing. One middle-aged man came back to my booth, I think 5 times, had one of each of my free samples, and ended up buying a loaf of focaccia. He said that his wife had bought a sourdough loaf from somebody else, and it didn't look very good, so he wanted to buy mine, which is sweet, but I'm sorry to the other people. There was also a young girl, around 10 or 11, who really liked my sourdough baguettes. She bought 3 of them and said she was probably going to come back to buy another. So I put one back for her because my baguettes were selling out, and she came back a couple of times by the end of the day, but I think I overheard her parents telling her that she couldn't buy it. So maybe this was bad on me. Maybe not. I don't know. I gave it to her for free one of the times that I saw her walking by. I was like, do you want that baguette? I saved it for you. Nobody else is here. We're cleaning up. You can have it. And she was like, yeah, sure. So that was super cute. So that's basically the gist of day 2, and now I would like to tell you guys about the trades and the purchases that I made. The first one was that the people across the aisle from us had lots of plants and lots of goat milk soap, and they had these beautiful, I'll put pictures up, beautiful geraniums that I was just looking at all day, and there was only one left of this specific color at the end of the day. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm thinking about offering him to trade a loaf of bread for that geranium, but I just don't think he will. And she said, why don't you just ask? The worst thing he can say is no. And I was like, I don't know, shy, obviously. So she did it. She went and asked if he wanted to trade, and his geraniums were $15 a hanging basket, and my bread loaves were only $12 a bread loaf, so we gave him a loaf of bread that was worth $12 and a cinnamon roll that was priced at $4 to give him $16 versus the $15 hanging basket that I got. But I am very happy with it. Worth it. Next trade was for this sourdough spurtle. It smells really good. It was handmade by the man who was in the booth right next to mine. And he was like, "Oh, you have sourdough? I have sourdough sticks. Do you have one?" And I said, "No, I don't have one." "And how much are they?" And he said, "How about a trade?" And I said, "Yeah, for sure." So he took one bag of blueberry muffin cookies and one bag of strawberry scones, and he actually ate the strawberry scones for breakfast the next morning and said they were delightful and that he loved them. He also told several people that were in his booth that I had sourdough because they were buying these sticks, and they're like, "Oh, if you want some bread, it's right there." He was mostly selling cutting boards. He just has these as a little extra add-on. So he also told several people, if you buy a cutting board here, you can go next door, buy a loaf of bread, cut it on the cutting board. So he was really cool. And he actually lives in the exact same town as me. He lives right here in this town. So I now have his phone number and have made somewhat of an acquaintance. He overheard me talking to my mom about how I needed to buy my own canopy because the one that I've been using the past couple of years actually belongs to my friend, and he's been letting me borrow it. I was like, man, I really just need to get my own. And he said he had some older ones that were the straight leg version, not the ones that I was using. Instead of having straight legs, they're kind of canted inward like that. So your canopy part is actually only an 8x8, but your floor space is actually a 10x10. And that's bothersome because you hit your head on it. They're not very tall, not as sturdy, just not made out of the same material, just not as good. And he told us that he had not one, but two older style canopies that he'd be willing to sell. So I bought one of them for $75, and there's a good chance I'm gonna buy the other one too. On the end of the first day, I went to a Thai food truck and got some food, and she asked me if I liked spring rolls, and I said, yes. And she said, "Oh, well, I rolled too many. Would you like some for free?" And I said, of course I would. What kind of question is that? Who doesn't take free food? Yes. So she gave me 2 free spring rolls. One was vegetable and one was shrimp. Tick on my leg. Get out of here, bro. They're so bad this year already. So she gave me those 2 free spring rolls, and later in the day I went back to their little food truck and I brought them some cookies. I was like, "Do you guys like sweets?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "Well, it was really nice of you to give me those 2 spring rolls for free, and we're leaving, so here's some cookies." And she thought that was really sweet. And then there was one more kind of unintentional trade where I had bought a coffee from the coffee shop that our hotel is connected to on the morning of the second day of the festival. And I didn't get to finish it by the time it had cooled off all the way, so I went to a nearby lemonade stand and I was like, "Hey, is there any way I could just get you to put some ice in my coffee?" I was like, I even brought her like a little paper cup so she didn't have to take my coffee cup into her business for like germs and stuff. And she was very nice and very accommodating and gave me free ice. So I went back to her booth and I gave her cookies also. I gave her the blueberry muffin cookies and she was like, "Oh, are these blueberry?" I was like, "Yeah, blueberry muffin cookies." And she said, "I love blueberry." And I was like, "Well, that's good because I almost brought you strawberry." And she said, "You made the right decision." I was like, "Okay, well, thank you for the ice earlier. I just wanted to give you some cookies." There was a booth of 2 people, a man and a woman, who didn't show up on the first day but showed up on the second day. But there was a lot of flooding and stuff, so I'm sure maybe they just physically couldn't get there. I'm not sure. But they set up their booth on the second day, and she was selling, I'm not sure what material they were, but they're like rope sandals, like maybe hemp or something, I'm not sure, and organic nut butters. So at one point she stopped at my booth and asked if I'd be interested in a trade, and I said, "Yeah, for sure. You're up there with the sandals, right?" And she said, "Yep, sandals and nut butters." So these are Eastwind nut butters, gluten-free, non-GMO. This one is crunchy peanut butter with no salt, and these are worth $9 a piece based on how much she was pricing and selling them. And then also a cashew butter raw with no salt. She had taste testing sticks, so I got to taste both of these, and that's why I chose these 2. I also tasted almond butter. I didn't like that one as much, but I don't think that was her fault. I think that was just a me not liking the flavor of almond butter fault. Oh, look. Tecumseh, Missouri is where they come from. This is their information. That's cool. So I traded her an aloe vera plant for these 2 jars of nut butter, and that's only selling that aloe vera plant for $10, and she gave me $18 worth of goods. So I went back to her booth, of course, and gave her some strawberry cookies later that day. She wasn't there, but her little partner that was there said that he thinks she would like them, so I left them for her. Last trade that I made was actually sourdough cinnamon rolls for goat milk soap. So I told you the people across the aisle from me had plants and goat milk soap, and I had already traded them some bread for one of their plants. And the guy that I traded with had given the cinnamon roll that I gave him, or traded him, to the woman with the goat milk soap, and she loved it. In fact, I saw her eat it and she was like, oh, she loved it. She really liked the icing, actually, especially, she told me. So later we were like, how much is your goat milk soap? And she was like, a cinnamon roll. So we were like, just cinnamon rolls? Like, you don't want money for it at all? She's like, no, I really like those cinnamon rolls. So I traded her 4 cinnamon rolls for this much goat milk soap. This is 2 bars, this is 4 half bars, this is 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars of lavender, 4 of these half-size bars of lavender rose, 2 big bars of strawberry vanilla, which smells so good, 2 bars of cedar, 2 bars of patchouli, which is the one that I chose. I love patchouli smell. These ones have charcoal in them, and these we picked out specifically from my love bug because he likes that. So this one is a eucalyptus charcoal, which smells so good. I love eucalyptus. Oh, I lied. Not all of them have charcoal. This specific one doesn't have charcoal. It's oatmeal and honey, 2 of his favorite things. This one is a little hard to read, but it's lemongrass and charcoal, very lemony scented. Like, this one is coffee and charcoal, and as much as he wants to think this one's for him, it's for me. This one is lavender and charcoal, and he really loves lavender also, so I think he'll love all of these. I actually haven't showed them to him yet, and it's been almost 2 weeks since the festival. I should give him those. Okay, that is all the trades that I made, but I did make a couple of purchases. My favorite one being a little doll made out of wood and yarn and fake flowers. This is that doll. It was handmade by a little girl who was maybe 10 or 11. She was actually friends with the baguette girl. These marks in the flower petal dress were not there when I bought it. My cat likes this material and chewed on it before I took it away from him. So this thing is actually so cute. It does have legs under there even. And there's a little flower in her hair, and she's holding a little flower. I picked this one out, and the little girl was like, finally, I'm so happy someone got that. I was so surprised that no one picked it yet. And I was like, well, it has a flower dress, so obviously I'm gonna pick that one. This was $10. I actually don't know how much these were because I did not buy them. My mom did, and I don't see price on them anywhere. Usually they're around $6, so this is probably about $12 of flowers. And last but never least, I got 2 5-pound bags of seed potatoes. These aren't all of them, they fell out in that burlap sack. But these ones are red Pontiac, and they are all chitted already and ready to plant. They're a little smushy. I need to plant these. I'm probably going to plant them tomorrow, which is something for you guys to look forward to. These ones are Kennebec, which I've been hearing a lot about recently. They're a lot of people's favorite potato to grow, at least around where I live, so I'm excited to try these. And then the last thing that I purchased, which was actually the first thing that I purchased while at the festival, is a Russian striped tomato. The guy who makes the cutting boards and the sourdough spurtles, his wife is from Russia, and she recently had some family members send her some seed. So I bought one big stripy Russian tomato plant, and a few days after bringing it home, another little baby sprouted in the container. So I have 2 Russian tomatoes. Ooh, I just felt a raindrop on my face. So just a little overall review of what I came back from the festival with and the monetary everything is I came back with 3 plain sourdough loaves, 24 sourdough cinnamon rolls. Sorry, I'm literally reading it off of a paper. I have it written down. 24 sourdough cinnamon rolls, 12 packs of strawberry cookies, 2 packs of blueberry cookies, 8 packs of scones. About a third of my vegetable plants came back home with me, and between a half and 3/4 of my flowers and herbs came back home with me. Not many people bought flowers, but that's okay because that means I'm gonna have a ton of flowers for myself. With the extra baked goods that I brought back, I first made a box to go to my friend who let me borrow the canopy, and he got 1 full loaf of sourdough, 3 bags of scones, 3 bags of each kind of cookie, and I dropped it off at his house full of boys, so I'm sure that got eaten. I also gave some away to some people that work at the gas station here, and some of my co-workers here at work. There was legitimately only a few days left of them being, like, really good to eat, not starting to dry out or mold or anything, because they are homemade goods. They don't stay good forever, so I didn't even want to try to sell them in case somebody didn't eat it immediately, so I just gave it away. Monetarily, I did not keep good track of how much money I spent overall to get ready for the festival. I know I spent around $450 on just the food items for making all the bread and the scones and cookies and everything, but I made enough money to pay back my investor, which is my mom. Thanks, Mom. Pay back myself for all the food and all the soil and stuff, even though I didn't perfectly count it. I was like, I know I didn't spend that much. Paid for my hotel, bought all of the food and drinks for me and my mom for both days. On the way home from Mansfield, it was late and I didn't want to cook dinner, so we stopped at a decent restaurant and got a takeout meal for 4, and it paid for that. And then even after all of that, I had $400 left to just have for myself that we lived on for a while. So I probably made a total of around $800 in profit, because I did give some of the profit to my mom also. She helped me a lot. She did a lot of the baking. She stayed there with me at the festival the whole time, so I gave some of the profit back to my mom. So yeah, guys, that's basically all I had to say about the festival. It was really fun, and I look forward to vending it again. I'm thinking if I vend in May or October next time, I won't have to worry about the frost, or I can do hot food instead of vegetable plants, which would be cool. If you want to watch my festival video from last year, it'll be here somewhere on the screen or listed down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you all in the next one.